Hi, Karen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Great. Well, I see the word vanguard, and that's used a lot of ways, but I don't know how it's used in connection with Columbus history.
Yes, so the Vanguard League actually was a group in Columbus in the 1940s, made up of African Americans from the East Side who got together to advocate for their own civil rights.
1940, so the World War II is just around the corner. Did that affect what they did?
Yeah, it did actually. Their vice president ended up being drafted and had to go away to the war. They began working with people who needed to be hired in industry during the war. They got a lot of women hired at the Curtiss-Wright plant.
What was the first task they set as a goal?
So their first big task that they're kind of most well known for was integrating the theaters in Columbus. So there was a theater owner named J. Reel Neth, and he owned most of the theaters in the city. And downtown African Americans generally weren't allowed in or got kicked out even when they bought a ticket. But he also owned a theater on the Near East Side in the African American neighborhood where African Americans were paying to use the facilities for things like family reunions and parties, and they were being hired to perform there, but they were still being discriminated against in all the other theaters he owned. So they began picketing the one in their own neighborhood, asking people not to spend money there to support this discriminatory behavior. And so eventually they picketed for most of 1941, and then in July he desegregated the theater.
So they had a success pretty early after organizing.
They did, yeah. They were pretty successful in getting a big membership. And then after they were successful in the picketing, you'll see actually in their meeting notes, they organized a party for everybody involved. Very official business.
Now, you're all about archiving manuscripts in your job, so tell us the importance of what we're seeing here, these manuscripts, these sheets of paper.
Yeah, so these are really the primary sources of the Vanguard League. They were donated by a woman named Constance Nichols, and she was one of the very founding members. This is actually their founding document. They met at her house one night to talk about the problems in the neighborhood, and they decided to rip a piece of paper out of a notebook, start a constitution, and become the Vanguard League. And these are also Constance's membership cards and some letters that her friend Frank wrote to her when she eventually ended up leaving Columbus to live in New Jersey for a little while.
And the photograph must be members of the Vanguard League?
Yeah, a few of the members are identified. You can see Frank Shearer, who was writing to Constance right here. He was an attorney in Columbus. And then another attorney, William Brooks, is in the photograph as well. And that's actually one of my favorite parts of this collection. It just shows what good friends they all were in their downtime.
Were they professionals? Were they blue-collar workers? What was the makeup
Yeah,
of the group?
most of the founding members of the league were professionals and well-educated. One of the most well-known is Barbie Durham of Ohio State University. He was a chemistry professor. And then Frank Shearer was an attorney. William Brooks was also an attorney. And so when they got into a lot of legal battles, especially with like housing, they were the perfect people to do it. They knew the law back and forth.
What happened to the Vanguard League? I don't know that name today.
Yeah, so they eventually basically integrated into Columbus's chapter of the Congress of Racial Equality. There wasn't enough interest in membership in the late 40s into the early 50s, so the members who were there just kind of joined up with that group, which they were pretty similar to begin with, so the two groups came together.
Well, it's a great story of activism that a lot of people don't know about in Columbus, so thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah, no problem.